Picture a city in complete darkness, no chatter in the streets, no footsteps moving about, no lanterns flickering outside the homes. Egypt is silent, but it is not peaceful. It is a silence that feels heavy, as though the air itself senses that a breaking point has arrived. This is where our story begins, in the final hours of a long struggle between a proud king and an unyielding God, between oppression and deliverance, between captivity and destiny. For generations, the Israelites lived as slaves in Egypt. Their backs bent under the burden of forced labor. Their names spoken without dignity. Their dreams pushed down and silenced. But even oppression has limits, and cruelty eventually awakens a cry for freedom. Moses, once a fugitive, had returned with a message from God. "Let my people go." Pharaoh's heart, however, was stubborn, unyielding, defiant, and hardened. 10 times the warning came. 9 times it was ignored. Egypt had seen rivers turn to blood, locusts devour crops, hail crush their fields, and darkness swallow their land. Yet Pharaoh held firm. His pride would not bend. And pride, especially when it sits on a throne, is rarely persuaded by reason. It often waits for pain. Then came the night described in Exodus 12 verse 30, an event no one in Egypt would ever forget. At midnight, suddenly, a wail rose from the palace. It was Pharaoh's voice, a sound raw with grief. The firstborn son in his household had died, just as God had warned. And the same fate swept through every Egyptian home. From the richest to the poorest, no household escaped untouched. The silence of the city shattered into cries flowing from every street. Lamps were lit. Doors were opened. People stumbled into the night, clutching sons, brothers, infants, lost in shock and sorrow. And Pharaoh, who had refused to bow in 9 plagues, finally broke at the 10th. Grief had done what reason could not. Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron in the middle of the night. No speeches, no negotiations, no conditions. The once defiant ruler could only manage 3 urgent words. Go. Leave now. He told them, "Take your families, your flocks, your herds, go serve the Lord as you said." Finally, the chains that held Israel for centuries were unlocked not by diplomacy or force of arms, but by God's hand. And it wasn't just Pharaoh. The Egyptian people pleaded with the Israelites to leave the land quickly. They feared that if the Israelites stayed any longer, Egypt itself might not survive. Sometimes life reaches a moment when prolonging a conflict only multiplies the damage. And what seemed impossible for years can happen in a single night when the right moment arrives. But the story doesn't end with escape. There is one more twist, one that reveals not just deliverance, but restoration. Before leaving, the Israelites asked the Egyptians for silver, gold, and fine clothing, valuable things normally denied to slaves. And in a stunning turn of events, the Egyptians willingly gave them what they asked for. The text says, "And the Lord caused the Egyptians to look favorably on the Israelites." The slaves who entered Egypt empty-handed departed wealthy. They had labored without pay for generations, but their exit came with compensation. Their departure was not merely freedom, it was justice, dignity, and repayment. Stories like this aren't just about ancient kings and nations. They speak to the long struggles of everyday life, situations that feel immovable, prayers that seem unanswered, seasons of waiting that test our patience. Every person knows what it means to be stuck in a place longer than they wanted to be. Stuck in a difficult job, stuck in a cycle of debt, stuck in a relationship where one party refuses to listen, stuck in fear, or stuck in habits that feel stronger than our will. And sometimes, like Israel, we're waiting for a midnight moment, where everything finally shifts. But there's also a warning embedded in Pharaoh's part of the story. His stubbornness cost his nation dearly. Pride, when paired with power, can become destructive. It blinds leaders. It wrecks families. It breaks communities. Many conflicts in life are prolonged not because peace is impossible, but because egos refuse to bend. On the other hand, the Israelites' experience highlights something beautiful, that waiting is not wasted when God is involved. Their suffering was long, but their redemption was thorough. From this story, we can see that pride is a vice to avoid. Pride that refuses correction. Like Pharaoh, a person can be right in their own eyes and wrong in reality. Pride delays change and multiplies suffering. We can also see that patience and trust in God are both virtues to embrace. Patience and trust in seasons of waiting. Israel waited a long time, but their midnight came. Sometimes breakthroughs don't arrive early, but they always arrive on time. And one more virtue stands out: gratitude. When freedom finally arrives, when the job comes, the healing appears, the loan clears, the conflict resolves, we're meant to leave with gratitude, not bitterness. Israel left Egypt with dignity, not revenge. By dawn, the Israelites were on the road. Families who once carried bricks now carried gold. Men and women who once answered to Pharaoh now marched under the leadership of God. They were no longer slaves, they were a people with a future. It began with a cry at midnight. It continued with a command to leave. And it concluded with a restoration no one expected. Some endings are loud. Others are quiet. But the end of slavery in Egypt was both. It echoed through the night and whispered through the morning as a new nation stepped into freedom. Every life has its pharaohs, situations that resist change. Every life also has its Egypts, places of struggle. And every life has its midnights, moments when God rewrites the story. The lesson of Exodus 12 verses 30 to 36 is simple, yet profound. Freedom may be delayed, but it is never denied when God sets the time. As this video comes to an end, remember this: the God who turned midnight mourning into morning freedom is still able to rewrite stories today. Egypt was not just a place, it was a condition. It was bondage, frustration, and delay. And yet when the appointed time came, Israel walked out with dignity, restoration, and a future. Every life has its Egypt. Every life has its midnight. But midnight does not last forever. When God moves, the situation shifts, the door opens, and the journey begins. If you are waiting for your own turning point, keep heart. Freedom may be delayed, but in God's timing, it is never denied. And if this story encouraged you today or helped shed new light on Scripture, then I invite you to stay connected. Please subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next episode, like the video to support the message, and share it with someone who may need hope, clarity, or encouragement in their own midnight moment. And don't forget to hit the notification bell, so you'll know the moment new content is released. Thank you for watching, and may your journey lead from captivity to freedom, from midnight to morning.